Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coffee with Craig show. We'll be talking about commercial real estate in Central and Eastern Europe. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this special ESG edition of the Coffee with Craig show. I'm proud to be here with Hubert Abt, CEO or founder of Workcloud24. And Hubert, welcome to the Coffee with Craig show.
Thank you, Greg, for having me.
Thousands of commercial properties are becoming ESG compliant. Here's what's behind the hype. ESG is short for environmental, social, and governance. These factors are used to measure the sustainability in the real estate industry. Due to EU regulations, more and more investors, financial institutions, and tenants use ESG ratings to evaluate whether to invest in properties. Meaning, if you don't meet these standards, you will fail to rent, sell, or finance your property. So, better make your building ESG compliant now with Workcloud24. As a leading international partner for ESG consulting, we know exactly which requirements your property must meet these days. Whether in the logistics sector, offices, retail, or residential buildings. In our initial analysis, we determine the current ESG performance of your property. Based on this, we create a strategy to make your property ESG compliant with minimal effort. Our network certified partners will support you in implementing all measures. Once completed, we provide you with an internationally recognized ESG certificate. This strengthens trust among investors, financial institutions, and tenants. Get your free initial analysis now and find out your current ESG performance. Workcloud24.com.
Thank you for, you did a great presentation at our CEE Investment Awards on ESG and really started the crowd talking a little bit, and the investors in the audience squirming or a little bit nervous, I could see. And I know you're doing, and I think time's ticking, and I know you're doing a lot of other conferences since then, so let's talk a little bit about how you see, I guess we're really looking at 2024 now, right? And what people are going to do next year. So let us know a little bit about Workcloud24, and then where you see the opportunities.
Yeah, thanks. Well, about Workcloud24, it's a ESG monitoring platform, which basically means we are helping clients for single assets or portfolios to making up their mind on their strategy, and whatever we need to put that strategy on a glide path, you can get as a one-stop shop at Workcloud24. Mm-hmm. Means you have a consulting, you have assessment, you have reports according to ISO norm, European norm, whatever you like, including a marketplace where you get the tools, be it a software or be it a energy management system or whatever you think is good, to reduce carbon or increase your karma points.
Right. So really a one-stop shop.
One-stop shop, yes.
Property owners. Yeah?
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yes. And so what's going on, what makes the fuss these days is basically, I guess, the fact that financing standing assets is getting really, really tough, because we know Mr. Powell just announced that he's not really sure in the US that they keep the interest. He's pretty sure they will not put it down, but there's also a slight risk that they still increase it.
Right.
And that, combined with the still higher inflation rates, gives us an idea about the interest level for next year. Mm-hmm. So we need to calculate with what we have today, at least, as a safe caution plan. And that makes it hard for banks to follow up on the standing asset financing, since this debt service cover ratio, which is give you the ratio what comes in, covers then the loan, is not in balance anymore.
Right, because I mean, they did think that raising interest rates would stop inflation, which it didn't seem to even move it.
It works kind of, but we are not there.
Right.
So that's the problem, why we need to really consider the next 12, 18 months, the still level of the interest rates. And if you put all that, call it KPIs, what the bank has already in their risk book, and you put additional ESG risk assessment on that, then you are basically in deep shit if you are not prepared for it.
Right. So sometimes I'll call companies or I'll talk to companies and you hear them say, oh yeah, our CEO is in charge of the ESG. And sometimes you call them and say, oh, the marketing coordinator, she's downstairs in the basement, she's in charge of ESG.
Yes.
So you can immediately almost see if they're really doing something or not. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it's on a C-level support, then you have good chances that you can execute a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
While if it comes to the wrong desk on the C-level, if it comes to the desk of the CFO, you might be not so sure anymore.
He'll cut it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
About the execution. I was lately on a panel, and the co-panelists, they are dealing with designing and fitting out offices. And he frankly said it's bullshit. Everything what they put in circular material or material as a service or whatever is additional costs. They cut it out because everybody is cash is king and try to save costs, right?
So it's ESG as long as it doesn't cost more.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the challenge is to educate industry that ESG is costs, but at the same time it's an investment with a high attractive payback.
Right.
So whoever I talk who executed the ESG strategy are really surprised that the payback is in between 1 and 5 years.
Right. So pretty fast.
Pretty fast compared to the asset as a real estate, which is 10, 20, 30 years, whatever, right?
So better to, it's interesting you said the CFOs don't want to do it, but they're also the ones talking to the banks. So I would imagine there's a double-edged sword there. Okay, they want to cut costs, but if they're calling the bank, I'm sure the bank's asking them directly about this.
Yeah, we need to blame a little bit the banks on this part because they are risk averse. That's their nature.
Sure.
Fair point. But they are also not very clear in the scope defining the risk assessment when it comes to ESG. So they have maybe they have an internal benchmarking, but it's not fully disclosed to the client.
Okay.
Right. So we're talking to banks to setting up their risk assessment and to reflect this risk assessment in a reporting format so the client is ready to make their homework and to report and disclose these risks according to the bank's internal risk assessment, which then is basically a smooth transformation of information. And that, helps also the bank to get a better rating, because the end of the day, what happens on the bank, they get a rating from Fitch, Standard & Poor's, or whoever, or only internal from the EZB controlling desk.
Right.
And if this is not good, because maybe ESG compliance is not so much, or the green portfolio is not according to what it should be, the entire rating of the bank goes down. And that means the cost of finance for the entire portfolio goes up.
Right.
So it's not worth to save effort because you think today it's a little bit cheaper or I have better things to do, because at the end of the day you pay 3 times more if you are not preparing for it.
And we were just in Rimini last week in Italy at an ESG conference, not necessarily real estate, but everything. And one of the panelists said, look, actually, ESG is almost nothing about real estate. It's about who you're putting, okay, a little bit on the E, of course, the materials, things like that. But for the social, it really comes down to who's leasing it, what space they're utilizing, and where their supply chains are. That's how they look at it from a non-real estate point of view.
If you put it on a matrix, yesterday I was on a panel and somebody said, flex and co-working. And I say, okay, define flex and define co-working. So if somebody would come up with such an interpretation, I would ask him, define what you mean. Of course, the matrix on the E and the S and the G in the differentiation of the operation as such means facility manager, asset manager, ownership, tenant engagement, or when it comes to the operation of the building itself, water, energy, waste, or it comes then to the built-in materials. So now you have already a matrix of 9 crosses which you can make.
Right.
And you need to design or decide which one is more important. The logistic has a completely different ESG matrix than a residential, clearly, because logistic deals storing goods and serving with trucks, and residential is dealing with people living in there.
Sure.
So it's, there's a different weight on the points.
And I noticed at this expo, it really was focused on waste management.
On waste management? Really?
Yeah, I mean, like where all this, there's a lot of waste and a lot of trash in these.
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't a real estate one. It was in general. And, for cities, probably a big issue.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter where you start, as long as you start, right?
Exactly.
Because the way is the target. So you're getting step by step. You raise the awareness, you raise the engagement, you execute more and more. And then you're coming back. My ghostwriter, kind of, who supports me, filing some posts, she said, "Oh, you are 15 years without a car. This is worth a post." And she came up and said, I was thinking already in 15 years behind that it's a good thing to reduce my footprint.
Right.
Nobody was thinking about reducing its footprint,
true.
make it more bigger because I have a faster car. That was the thing, right?
Right.
But what is true, I decided not to have the car since then ever been because it was more convenient for me. Not to have the car, right?
Yeah, right.
That it turns out today is good for me as the CEO, founder of such a company.
Right, you're
not
very
to
green.
have a car.
Yeah.
I'm green, but I'm wasting my carbon footprint on planes. So.
Right. Well, I would say, half of our, I don't know if it's half, but a big percentage of our people watching the show are portfolio managers. And probably if I wouldn't say, a reasonable number are really watching it, really checking it, really taking a look at it. But what would you suggest, or let's talk to them a little bit. Where do they start, or where, if they've already started, then what are the next steps? But let's just start with the beginning. Where
I had a call with a company based in Netherlands. They are leading in benchmarking. They have a big database for benchmarking assets. And that's exactly the point, which also turns out, if you talk to the bank, it's all about benchmarking. So if I have logistics in Poland, I compare it with logistics in Poland. If I have resi in Austria, I compare it to resi in Austria. Right? And that's the benchmark. So you need to be aware, how do you position yourself towards the competition? Because that's finally defining also the risk for the bank in the country and the asset class, and it's also defining the attractiveness to the tenants and to the end users, right? So it's all about benchmarking. It means you need to agree on a format. It doesn't really matter which format you use, but it needs to be the same standards. Best case, you use a standard which is internationally recognized, like this ISO or European norm.
Right.
And then you start filling in data, and we're seeing the results. You're getting already the red flags out, right? Because this is then, if you need 500 kilowatt hours instead of 100, you see there is something wrong.
Right.
And then you can focus on these red flags, and try to catch it in.
Right. So is that what you recommend to kind of your CEE clients or CEE property owners, that this is a place to start?
It's an international practice.
Right. Okay.
Yes, it's best practice in all countries. And I mean, go to London and you see all these old buildings around. They are really not ESG compliant on the first look. Right. And they are also not ESG compliant on the second one. But if you want to compare a city house in London, you compare it to a city house in London. Right. And if you're so much better than the others, you're already okay-ish. But if you're worse, then you need to do something. Right.
So really, to the C-level people, it's like, hey, start looking at this if you haven't already. Really take it seriously. Use your services to at least do the first initial, what's happening, where to go,
This is the level today, because again, it gets engagement, it raises awareness, and by learning it, you're getting better. But the real challenge comes definitely on the refinancing side. If the bank says, listen, guys, you need to reduce your carbon footprint by 50%, end of the credit facility means from next year on, 2024, by 2029, you need to be 50% down. If you don't have a plan for that, we can't finance you, full stop.
And are you running into that now, where people are coming to you and saying, we just got this letter from the bank. We're now your gold client because we need to get to this plan.
You will not receive the letter because once you receive the letter, it's already too late.
Okay.
But I highly recommend to start talking.
Yeah. If the bank has to ask, it's too late.
I mean, I compare it with the university. If you're not prepared for the test, you will not get allowance to get to the test. Right. So that's the thing. So it's really high time for everybody to make the homework.
Start doing it now for 2024 and success for the future.
Yeah.
So, so Hubert, tell us. So we're kind of coming out of time, but tell us any kind of last comments or angles, or you think people should, let's say, look out for or give you a call for, just even some just kind of quick start.
Yeah. What's on the bottom of my heart is basically the certificate as such doesn't help you to get ESG compliant because most of the certificates, by the way, we have 85 in the world around.
85 now,
85. Okay. Most of the certificates only prove that the concept and the design is ready to be ESG compliant in a way.
Okay.
But the gold nugget is the operation.
Right.
How you operate, right? You can have the best energy performing building. If somebody opens the window and shoots the heating up,
finished.
It's finished, right? So well designed, but not well operated. And the operational excellence is the part where you can save 30-40% of carbon easily.
Right.
And that enables us, as a simple example, with an energy-based sensor and management system where you can really reduce your carbon by 10-20% for payback in 6 to 7 months.
So really fast.
Really fast, right? So that's the entry level, and that's really cool stuff. And I really would say make a plea, think easy, because in this low entrance level, there is a lot of low-hanging fruits to be grabbed.
Yeah, a lot of savings without a lot of work. Well, Hubert, thank you very much. Hubert Abt from Workcloud24. And definitely drop Hubert an email or give him a call if you have any questions about the future of your buildings and selling them or refinancing them.
Thank you, Greg.
And we'll see you next time with the news.
Cool.
Click here to subscribe to the Coffee with Craig show, and don't forget to share it with your friends.